All right, guys, so many of you have asked how my tennis matches went, and I'm glad to say that I won both of them. So the one on Saturday was 6-2, 6-2, the one on Sunday, so the final was 6-1, 6-1. So I was pretty happy with that, also happy with my performance. And of course, I was happy that I didn't re-injure myself, which was the biggest risk that I was taking. I can say that I did have a really stiff hip, especially in the second set of the last game. And I feel that this might have been not so much my adductors, but my whole hip musculature just reacting to the injury and trying to stiffen everything up to protect that area, or I had just a different movement pattern than I usually had. If I compare myself to the study of Cerner that we always used to refer to, I have to say that most of the study participants were soccer players. So in my case, it was tennis. I think soccer is even more taxing on the adductors. But as you could see, it is possible to return to sport even within 6 days. So that was pretty good time-wise. The only downside with tennis, of course, is if you play a match, you're on your own. So you can't just play maybe 30 minutes and then ask a coach to or another player to replace you. With tennis, you either play the match or you gotta give up. Okay, so looking back to the time before the injury, I think the reason why this injury occurred was what we formerly called overload. Now it's called training error related injury, and it was a clear training error from my side because I was just playing tennis too enthusiastically, and I wasn't prepared for that high volume of tennis. So I could have totally avoided that. Looking further into the future, so how am I going to continue now? I feel completely fine on the tennis court now. Of course, I'm trying not to get too crazy with too many tennis matches per week, but I'm starting to get used to it. What I'm trying to make sure is that I continue my rehab, because as you could see, if you compare my Copenhagen adductor performance with that of Andreas's, it can be a little bit better, probably on both sides. And something that we cannot test in our clinic or in our studio at the moment is to compare the adductor strength with the abductor strength and to calculate a ratio, because research suggests that this ratio should be like somewhere between 1 and a maximum of 0.8. So there shouldn't be any big difference between the adductors and the abductors. If we had a microfed or a handheld dynamometer, we would be able to calculate a ratio here. And of course, I will continue my normal strengthening program of my lower limbs. With that being said, we covered a lot of topics of the rehab, and we very much hope you enjoyed it. I think what we could have done in the first place, which we decided not to do, was to show how a proper examination would look like. And in this case, we would like to refer you to the Doha criteria that we covered in another video, which try to distinguish adductor-related injuries from hip flexor-related injuries, from injuries or pathology related to the pubis, and they differentiate inguinal hernias as well and intra-articular pathologies. So this is something we could have covered. In my case, it was pretty clear that it was an adductor-related injury, so that's why we didn't bother. But of course, it's important that you make sure you're treating the right diagnosis of your patients. Okay, that's my story on my the summary for my rehab vlog. If there's other injuries in the future, we will of course try to keep this format because a lot of people enjoyed it. And I'll see you in another video. Take care. Bye.